Hey everybody, so we've got a trade to talk about this morning. Nashville Predators and New Jersey Devils made a deal just this morning, and it sends Brian Boyle to Nashville for a second round pick in this upcoming 2019 NHL draft. And I have to say that this is a great move for the Nashville Predators. This is exactly the kind of depth move that you see teams make when they're gearing up for a Stanley Cup run. And obviously Nashville, given how good they are and where they are as far as in the league standings, Nashville is gearing up for a Stanley Cup run. And guys like Brian Boyle, veteran player, he's a fourth liner. He's a fourth line center, but he is so important to what any team that he's on, and depth fourth line bottom six guys are extremely important in the playoffs. You have to have a good bottom six to be able to win in the playoffs, and Nashville's already a good team, and they have been for years now, but this is just moves like this are so underrated going into the playoffs and just what they can do for a team. But obviously the moves that get talked about are the big splashes. So if somebody goes and grabs Panarin, that will be all over the news. Whoever gets Wayne Simmons, that will be all over the news. But moves like that are not always the ones that make the biggest difference. I think it's moves like this can have such a profound impact on a team. When you're Nashville, you're already so good. You don't necessarily need to go out and make the huge splash to make your team better. You're good enough to where you just need a little more depth, a little more veteran experience, a good playoff guy, and that's what Brian Boyle is. He's 34 years old. He's been around the league for a long time. He's played a ton of playoff games. I mean, look at the teams that he's played for have been consistently good, really good teams. I mean, New Jersey's not this year. They're having a rough year, but they made the playoffs last year, and Boyle's played for the Rangers when the Rangers were really good. He's played for the Toronto, that first year that Toronto really got back into the playoff mix. He's played for New Jersey and made the playoffs with them last year. Like, Boyle is a guy who's just he's a winner. He's been around the league a long time. He's a great veteran guy to have in your lineup. And he's a good face-off guy. He can kill penalties. He can bring toughness. He's a big guy. He's not exactly, he's not a fighter. He's not someone who's going to drop the gloves on a regular basis, but he's willing to stand up for his teammates. He can drop the gloves a couple times a year if he needs to. He's just one of those great bottom six forwards that you need to win Stanley Cups. I think this is a tremendous, tremendous depth move by the Nashville Predators. Honestly, what's that second round pick for Nashville? Nashville's one of the top teams in the league. That pick's going to be late in the second round. You're not missing out on most likely not missing out on a great player there. Your chances of hitting a home run with a late second round pick are probably not very high percentage wise. For New Jersey, obviously they're done this year. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. They have Brian Boyle, who's a veteran guy who at this point, he's more valuable on a playoff team than on a team like New Jersey. So they're going to trade that veteran guy whose contract I believe is expiring. He'll be much more appreciated and needed in Nashville than he is in New Jersey this year, where they're not going to the playoffs. So if you're New Jersey, you move Boyle, get something for him, you get a second round pick. It's another draft pick that you stockpiled to maybe, hopefully make your team better for the future. And I love this move for Nashville. I think we're going to see a lot more moves like this, given how important depth is in the playoffs. And, anytime you can get a veteran type guy who's been around for a long time and adds a lot to any team that they're on, like Brian Boyle does as a fourth line guy, any team that can make their bottom six better, I think, is going into the playoffs. So if you're a playoff team and you're going to be looking to add veteran guys like Brian Boyle, and Nashville pulled the trigger first. And again, I'm I'm not surprised that we're seeing these deals happen well before the trade deadline, a few weeks before the trade deadline. I don't think teams are going to wait around as much like they used to. If you want a guy, go and get him now. If you think he's going to help your team for the rest of this season and the playoffs, go and get him now. Because the longer you wait, then the more opportunity you're giving another team to go out and pull the trigger. So we've seen Pittsburgh pull the trigger on a big move. We've seen Toronto pull the trigger on a big move. Now Nashville, this isn't, the same level of, big like the Muzzin deal was or the Bugstad deal was, but Nashville now is pulling the trigger on an important move for them. This reminds me a lot of when Nashville brought in Paul Gaustad. And the situation was a little different there, but they brought in Gaustad to be a bottom six center, a veteran guy who's been around, great in the locker room, and this is a tremendous move for Nashville. And also, you have Austin Watson out of the lineup again now because of his continued substance issues. He's back in the league's substance program, trying to get those issues resolved. When you take Austin Watson out of that Nashville lineup, he's their main fighter. He's a big guy, a physical player who adds a decent amount of offense as well as a third line guy. Brian Boyle doesn't, completely, Watson's a winger, more offensive than Boyle is. Boyle doesn't completely replace Austin Watson, but Boyle does give you some size that you're missing with Watson out, a little bit of grit and sandpaper in your game that you're missing with Watson out. And while he doesn't completely replace him, he does help, lessen the effects of having Austin Watson out of the lineup right now. So I don't know when or if Watson will be back or what's going on with that situation. But Brian Boyle is a great, great guy to have on your team going into the playoffs. And even if Watson does come back, Boyle's going to stay in the lineup. Boyle's not a guy that you're probably going to be healthy scratching. He's a guy that I think you want as your fourth line center on a game in and game out basis. And I think this is a phenomenal move for a Nashville team that has their sights set on a Stanley Cup this season. So great move for Nashville, really important depth piece there, and just a great guy to have going into the playoffs. So like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.